The movie begins with a photo shoot session of a top model, Alina. The photographer takes several varieties of shots before Latonia, who is her manager, hollers for a wrap-up. Reggie, who is Alina's boyfriend, is seen flirting with the secretary and cleverly passes her his phone number. Tucking her hair behind her ear while blushing, she accepts the paper and seductively winks at him, saying she'll call him in the night. Albeit seriously, he insists that she must text him asking for permission before calling him, as that would be a way for them to stay friends and have a fruitful relationship. Seeing Latonia and Alina walking towards them, she excuses herself, ending the conversation with Reggie. Latonia fixes him a glare as she sees him flirting with the secretary. She asks who let the dogs out and clearly states that the secretary is fired. Reggie turns, calls out her name, and tries to be friendly while going in to take her hand for a kiss, but she rebuffs him, making a snarky remark about God not creating enough water to wash her hands after touching his lips. Unfazed, he tells her it's her loss and pulls Alina to him for a kiss, saying she is the only amazing woman touching his lips, which he is blessed for. Pulling on a charming smile, he tells Latonia that her secretary is a fan. Rolling her eyes, she turns to Alina and says they need to be at CBC by 2 before walking off. Reggie tells Alina to fire Latonia and find another positive manager. She laughs this off and they both lean in for a kiss. Being mushy and romantic, she asks how his day was, to which he playfully cocks his head and replies that it was going great until Latonia interfered. To this, she flicks his head while smiling and he assures her that he's good. While holding her in a warm embrace, he playfully tells her that they should eat steak at night, which she scrunches her nose up to. He gets freaky talking about red meat and kisses her for a moment before they head out. Marvelous, or Marv for short, is seen holding a placard and a plastic cup, asking for a couple of dollars in front of a building, when a security guard comes out and tells him to stop begging in front of the building else he's calling the cops. He waves off the security and walks up to Latonia and Alina, just coming out of the building. He greets them with a smile which Alina returns, but Latonia snorts while saying here comes the beggar under her nose. With a smirk, she asks what he wants, to which he replies that she doesn't have to open her big mouth, and that he is only talking to Miss Alina. Latonia launches into a tirade, telling Marv that Alina says she's sick and tired of him sucking her dry of every penny she has. He cuts her off and tells her that Miss Alina is his friend, unlike her. This makes her jab him even more. Unbothered by this, he goes ahead to ask Alina for $1, but is cut short by Latonia, telling her not to give in to him and save her money. Alina kindly asks him why he's not working, as he's young and healthy, to which Latonia happily answers that he's only a full-bodied fool. He defensively says that he has been filling out job applications lately, but she doesn't believe him. Alina finally gives him $50 on a promise that he will look for a job, to which he joyfully agrees. This makes Latonia soften up and give him money too, ironically telling him she believes in him. He praises them, while they head off. Reggie and Alina are in her house mildly arguing about his reluctance to take their relationship seriously. He says that she is too emotional, and he doesn't think marriage is for him, because he hates imprisoning himself. Typical playboy lines. He goes on to say that she has allowed Latonia to manipulate her mind and influence her badly, but she disagrees by telling him that the only reason he's saying that is because Latonia sees through him. She asks who the girl in the building is, which makes him deflect. He tells her to stop allowing Latonia to play on her insecurities, which makes her angry. She goes on a blast about him trying to flip the situation around. He tries to defuse her, telling her he plans on marrying her but at a good time. He tells her that marriage will affect his movie role at the moment. This only makes his playboy act so obvious. He gives an excuse about how ticket sales will drop if he's married, and it won't be good for his movies and their future together because most people buying are ladies. She doesn't buy this and says she needs to be anywhere but near him while heading out. Alina is ambushed by a robber who tries to steal from her on her walk down the road. Luckily, Marv sees this and runs to her rescue, which makes the robber run off. He insists on walking her the rest of the way home. She requests that he come in to take a shower and dinner, as gratitude for saving her. He finally agrees. After the shower and food, she offers him the couch to stay the night. He says a mantra tearfully while lying down. Marv is in the kitchen the next morning, seriously cooking up breakfast for Alina. She rejects the food playfully by just looking at how horrible it looks. I mean, it's the thought that matters, right? They go out to get breakfast at a restaurant and they get into a conversation about her modeling career. She asks him about what he does and how he ended up homeless, which makes him a bit emotional. He tells her how easy it is to become homeless, as it only takes one mistake, and the world comes crashing down. He takes her to where he stays and introduces her to his friends, Jesus and David. Looking at the dilapidated tent they made for themselves, she tears up and pitifully offers Marv another shower at her place. He agrees and she leaves. LaTonya and Alina are in a meeting with William, who is Alina's financial manager, but the meeting is not going well as they discuss Alina's money. After this, LaTonya quizzes Alina about Marv, which makes her blush furiously, and admits that what started as a one-night stuff has turned into a week. LaTonya doesn't like the sound of this, but Alina reassures her that he doesn't just stay at home. Instead, he goes out to look for jobs and even helps around the house. LaTonya still doesn't give in as she buttresses her point of not allowing a man to stay in a lady's house, while the lady feeds and clothes him. Just to be sure, she asks Alina if he didn't pull the robbery stunt with his friend just to look cool and gain admiration in her eyes. Alina vouches for him and says he has a pure mind. This makes LaTonya look at her and ask if she's falling for him because she's seeing the telltale signs already, but Alina just laughs it off. Marv walks in on them in the coffee shop and LaTonya is stunned by how good he looks. She quickly compliments him. She tells Alina he should get a job to keep up looking this good, and he replies that he went job hunting at some real estate and brokerage firms. She jokingly makes a side comment to Alina about not letting him fool her, and Marv jabs her right back, saying he sees she still doesn't have a man. They all laugh about it. LaTonya explains that the reason for her lack of a man is that the brothers don't want to mess with her. She says that she doesn't have time for any guy who isn't serious. Marv offers to buy them something to eat, but Alina politely declines. He still insists, which makes LaTonya jokingly tell him she'll order the full shop if he doesn't stop asking. LaTonya leaves after teasing Alina about Marv. At home, Alina tells Marv she's taking him to a party, which makes him surprised. She hangs up a nice suit by the door for him. Just then, the doorbell rings, and a delivery guy holds up an Armani suit in his name. With the excitement of a kid being given candy, he takes the suit and asks Alina if she bought it for him. With a confused face, she says no. He finds out that the suit is from LaTonya, which surprises both Marv and Alina. He goes on serenading the suit and LaTonya's taste, which drops Alina's mood a bit. He notices this and tells her he'll wear the suit she gave him to the party instead, but she brushes him off, saying he should wear whichever he wants. He playfully tells her she's jealous, and she smacks her lips and replies in his dreams while going back upstairs. He continues teasing her about being jealous. Standing by the car in his suit, Marv waits for Alina as she sashays out of the house in a cute black dress. He compliments her and tells her they look good together. She gives it back to him, playfully saying he looks far removed from his little card box, which makes him laugh while saying her joke's cold. They both laugh it off, and he opens the door for her to enter. LaTonya makes a toast and compliments Marv. She insists on finding him a job and tells Alina she has some people around she wants to introduce him to. Alina is happy about this as LaTonya takes Marv away. Willem comes up to Alina just then and compliments her. He inquires about Marv and asks if he's not the homeless guy on the street. Alina tries to stop him, but he goes on. He finally changes the topic to an investment in the prison system, which makes her raise her voice and firmly insists that she won't invest her money into that. He tries to calm her down. Much calmly, she tells him she won't do something like that and clearly tells him not to invest her money there. He agrees and she walks off. LaTonya and Marv are talking by the corner when a lady walks up to them, recognizing Marv. She tells him it's been a long time and asks where he's been, to which he replies that it's a long story. Quickly, LaTonya jumps into the conversation saying there's a lot of time, as she also wants to hear where he's been. All the while, Marv tries signaling LaTonya to stop talking with his eyes, but strong-headed LaTonya pays him no heed. Marv tells the lady that he's just at the party supporting his friend Alina. At that moment, Alina walks up to them, and Marv introduces the lady as Sabrina. They share pleasantries, and Sabrina congratulates Alina on her success as a model. She goes on to tell them that she was engaged to Marv at some point, and there was never really any closure between them. This makes Marv really uncomfortable. Alina, being sweet, offers to give them privacy, but LaTonya does not have it as she wants to stay for the juicy details. Alina finally succeeds in pulling a very nosy LaTonya out in order to give them privacy. Sabrina updates Marv about her life, telling him she works for a fashion company and she's there to bring some clothes for Alina. With a sad and pained expression, she tells him she waited for him. He nods and asks her if they can talk outside. Back at home, Alina's on the couch and Marv walks in by 3 in the morning, seeing her eating ice cream. He makes a joke about this and gets beaten by a pillow from Alina. Feeling hurt and used, she tells him she never would have allowed him in her space. He offers to leave, but she clarifies, saying she's talking about a different type of space. She's already falling for him at this point. He begins explaining the Sabrina situation to her. He says that he was engaged to her, but when he lost everything he had, he couldn't face her, so he left. Alina tells him he's a whack for doing that, which agrees, but goes on to say that being homeless has shown him who he is. Despite not having the money he once had, he's now a better person. With a vulnerable expression, Alina asks if he still loves Sabrina, which he affirms. With so much hurt, she rebukes herself for being naive. She tells him to find himself and walks off to her bedroom. The next day, Reggie proudly walks in on Alina at the studio, proclaiming he is back from his break. She replies that she got his girly text, which makes him ask if she's angry at him for putting her on timeout for a few weeks so she could check herself. To this, she scoffs and says he must really like the sound of his own voice and to check himself. Being the manipulative person he is, he goes on to say he thought she would give him a call. Talk about an egomaniacal player. He grudgingly says that he knows someone like him has to get on his knees and beg sometimes, which she refutes by telling him she's not asking for that. He asks if she's sure because he is humble enough to do it, which makes Alina laugh mockingly at him. Irritated, she asks what he really wants. With a serious face, he tells her he knows she's kind, but she can't bring homeless people into her home. She replies that it's her house, and she can do whatever she wants to. He still insists, saying Marv is a grown man and not a pet that she can let stay at her place. He goes on giving feeble lines like, he's just trying to look out for her and whatnot. He says that she has paid him back for saving her and that should be enough. With all seriousness, he tells her that he can't have a homeless man squatting with a woman he loves and wants to get married to. He goes ahead and pulls a ring from his pocket, asking her to marry him, all the while still sitting down comfortably. She tells him she doesn't have time for his games and reminds him that he said he's young, rich, and gifted, so he doesn't need marriage holding him down. He tells her that those things do not complete him. He says that the past few weeks they haven't spoken gave him time to think about their relationship, and he realizes that he really loves her. To this, she replies that his arrogance is really unattractive. Mr. Ego tells her she's confusing confidence for arrogance and goes on to put the ring on her finger without getting a go-ahead from her, telling her to just keep it and think about his proposal. Getting swayed by his sweet talks, her eyes soften like a puppy, and she asks if he would make an effort to change, which he affirms. She then tells him to give her time to think about it. He agrees, leans in for a kiss, and leaves. Alina comes back home to find Marv sitting at her dining table with Jesus and David. She furiously asks what's happening and yells at them to leave. She confronts Marv angrily, asking why he would invite people to her house without her consent. He quickly apologizes. She tells him she doesn't like people who are being unappreciative, and he tells her he invited them over to fix all the broken things in the house, thinking she wouldn't mind. To this, she stutters a bit and feels really bad about her outburst. Marv notices the ring on her finger and curiously asks about it. She tells him Reggie asked her to marry him and she said she'll think about it. With a look of disbelief, he asks if she loves him. This irritates her, and she fires back at him about Sabrina. He goes on to plainly say he doesn't fake a thing because he already told her he loves Sabrina. She sassily says she remembers that clearly, which makes him ask if she's jealous. She taunts him by saying not in his wildest dreams, but feels bad after saying that. She tells him that she has been with Reggie for a long time, and it hasn't been the easiest journey, but it is what it is. Marv replies that it is clearly bullshit. She asks him to explain a statement he made about what made him homeless. Sighing heavily, he replies that he found out about some illegal practices going on in the firm, which made Jesus, David, and himself pay the consequences for being the whistleblower. With so much hurt and tears in his eyes, he says that sometimes he wished he had turned a blind eye to it. She tells him that she thinks if he was given the same choice again, he would do the same thing, cause he's a good person. LaTonya and Alina are walking on the road, while the latter brings LaTonya up to date on Reggie. LaTonya tells Alina that although he is handsome, he is not a good person, and Marv is a better choice, but he just needs a better job. They both meet up with William and Reggie at a restaurant. William tells them he has a $250 check for them and tells them he wants Marv to do a job for him. LaTonya says she's not blocking his shine and tells William to go ahead and steal Marv from her because he's paying more. William playfully jabs her that her invisible shoulder pads are surely blocking Marv. At William's office, Marv is given $200,000 to run an errand, which is to drop off a package. Hesitantly, Marv asks if it is legal, which William assures him it is. He drives over to meet his friends and tells them about the deal with William, saying he doesn't trust him. He asks them to come along with him, and they all get into the car and drive off. Alina is with Reggie, and he asks her about the proposal once more, which she says she still needs time for. He is confused about what she needs time for, and she tells him that marriage is a lifelong commitment. He gets worked up when she mentions Marv to him, and he begins questioning her about how she's taking advice from a homeless guy. He gives her an ultimatum on Marv, but she shakes her head and tells him she'll have an answer for his proposal when she gets back. Reggie is at Alina's house when Marv walks in. He confronts the latter and makes jest of him. He lies that Alina wants him to leave before she gets back, but Marv is reluctant, saying he wants to hear from Alina herself. Reggie brings out a deed for the house and tells him it's his house, so he has to leave, or else he'll call the cops. Marv gives him the keys to his truck and leaves. Alina and Reggie walk into the house and he tells her he came by earlier. This makes her ask if he saw Reggie, but he outrightly denies it. She sees a letter on the counter which indicates that Marv has left, and is confused by it. Marv is seen waiting by an apartment emotionally when Sabrina pulls up and gives him a hug. A very disturbed Alina goes over to the place Marv and his friends stay to ask about Marv, but they tell her they haven't seen him. She apologizes for kicking them out of her house the other time, and invites them to the house anytime they want before leaving. During coffee time with LaTonya, it is revealed that Marv is sleeping at the office. LaTonya gets a call from Marv about work, and they both leave for the office. Alina sees Marv and confronts him about leaving abruptly, which he attributes to Reggie. With a confused look, she tells him about the letter he left, but he replies that he didn't leave any letter. She tells him they will talk later, and they both head on to meet LaTonya. William and Reggie are seen with a detective to arrest Marv. William claims that Marv stole $50,000 from him. The detective tells LaTonya and Alina that Marv served some time in jail before for fraud. He is arrested and taken away. Sabrina bails Marv out of jail. Back at home, Alina feels sad about being deceived by Marv, and Reggie comforts her. She finally accepts his proposal, and the two kiss happily. Marv apologizes to Sabrina about leaving her because he didn't have the courage to face her after losing everything. Jonathan, who is Sabrina's boyfriend, meets up with both of them, and Marv thanks him for the help with bail. He shakes Marv's hand and heads off. Sabrina asks about his relationship with Alina and gives him advice about getting his life and vision back together so he can end up with her. She offers him her home for the night and gives him a loan which he reluctantly accepts. Marv runs into a photo shoot session of Alina and tries to explain his innocence, but she doesn't believe him. LaTonya calls security on him, and Reggie hauls him out of the building. It's been 2 months now, and Alina is seen with LaTonya, flipping through a wedding book for dresses, but her mind is not into it. LaTonya tries to take her mind off of things by telling her a story. Their conversation drifts to Marv, and LaTonya tells her she doesn't think he stole the money, but believes William fabricated a lie with the help of Reggie. LaTonya advises her that she doesn't think she should marry Reggie, stating that Reggie might be trying to marry her just because of the recent movie he's shooting at the moment, which would need a boost. She tells her to be smart about everything, and to trust her spirit. Alina bumps into Marv on the road and they both chat awkwardly. She compliments his looks, and he tells her about his job, as he is just finding his place one step at a time. She tells him she fired William, and might be offering him a job soon, but he doesn't seem pleased by this. Looking her straight in the eyes, he tells her he doesn't think he's the man for that position, as he knows she doesn't trust him. He asks about her marriage to Reggie, and she replies, it is happening the next day, which he stiffly congratulates her for. Once again, he tells her he didn't steal the money and leaves. Later that night, Alina is sitting upright, brooding in bed, while Reggie sleeps beside her. He wakes up and asks her what the problem is. She finally tells him to leave, and threatens to expose how he set up Marv to the media. She throws the ring at him and tells him it's over. Now that took a long time. While driving, she's all smiles as she reminisces about the times and memories she had with Marv. She meets him at the coffee shop and proclaims her love for him. He smiles and tells her he loves her too, and they engulf each other in a warm hug and an intense kiss.